All right, so Portugal. What is happening? Is this program still alive? Is it going to close? What is this whole confusion about what is happening right now? Let me tell you very clearly. Portugal has been and remains the best golden visa path in Europe. I've been studying this matter from any angle, trying to find any potential competitive product. In the end, this is, in my view, still the best program. But something is gonna change, fast, so it's very important that we dive now into some details. We are living right now in what I define the Great European Shutdown. All the different programs, including Malta, which was the real competitor or the real alternative offering to Portugal, has closed. So right now, there is no other option to Portugal. If you want and if you are interested in a golden visa path, which means getting the residency first and then eventually after a few years, the citizenship in Portugal or in another European country, well, there is no program that can match the Portuguese program. Now, the reasons why are, as you probably know, the minimum stay requirements. You need to spend in the country on average only 7 days every year, and with 500,000 euro of investment in different kind of investment funds, you can secure your pathway to a European citizenship. Now, on the 25th of June of this year, there has been a proposal from the government to change actually the nationality law and to increase the years required of residency in the country from 5 to 10 in order to be able to apply to the citizenship. This means that potentially in the future, the 5 years period will be actually probably a dream or something that will be absolutely out of the equation for literally anyone. I don't expect any other European program also to match this requirement. That's why it's very important to consider this option before this window may be closing down. As we will look into it right now, if for all those ones securing their vested interest or applying before the new law gets enacted, well, you will be, in one way or another, you will be secured with the current terms. Now, before we get into it, let's start with the basics. Why Portugal is now the premier option? I mentioned to you just now this concept of the Great European Shutdown. And in my view, this is a very sensitive topic. And you may have heard of the Maltese CBI program being terminated by the European Court of Justice. This just happened. Spain, the Spain Golden Visa program was abolished in April 2025. Cyprus, it closed under the European pressure also because of some scandals that happened there a few years ago. Ireland, the Irish program ended in 2023. Then, of course, there is the Greek and the Italian program. They are great options, but they require you to move in the country, to live in the country, to have a continuous residency in the country for years, 8 or 10, before applying to citizenship. Portugal in this landscape still now represents a unique option. Why? Because it's the only remaining institutional, legit European citizenship pathway that survived, differently from Malta, because it's a legitimate program focused on residency first, and we experienced in the recent period a surge of interest in Portugal, until eventually the government announced these potential new changes. What are the current program requirements? Just to give you an overview. In order to be able to apply to the Golden Visa program in Portugal, you have different routes. You can invest in funds, $500,000, you can donate about 250K in general donation in, which means you lose the money differently from funds, or there are also minority options that we're not going to address now. For what concerns the fund option, you need to invest 500,000 euro in an eligible fund, which means the fund needs to invest 60% of the assets in local companies, at the condition these companies don't deal with real estate. Besides this, you need to spend actually 14 days every 2 years, which means 1 week on average per year. You need to, of course, possess a clean criminal track record, all the families included, and by the end of this program, before applying to citizenship, you need to either attend around 150 hours of online classes or pass a Portuguese language exam. Now, the current program at least will give you the Golden Visa in 18 months after your application, and after 5 years will allow you to apply to citizenship. If the Golden Visa timeline for you is essential, look into it very carefully because there may be delay, as it happened in the past, although the things improved quite a lot. So we will come back to this maybe on a different topic. Once you get the citizenship, you get essentially exposure and access to 27 different countries. This is what I always write. This is, in my view, an incredible edge. You will get visa-free access to about 190 countries, and you will get access to education, healthcare of 27 different systems. And of course, this is generationally transmissible. This means that all your kids will have the same rights in the decades ago and all the descendants afterward. Now, This sounds very good, right? And apparently it was very good until a certain moment, because there was even a proposal of the government to introduce certain additional potentially tax benefits for Golden Visa investors. Just a few weeks after this positive announcement that caught everyone quite surprised in positive terms, well, different political priorities about generalized migration in the country made the government proposing an increase of the years required to apply to citizenship from 5 to 10. Now, in this proposal there are also other details. Apparently 7 years is the number of years required for example, Brazilians or people who speak Portuguese, and so far and so on. What it really matters for us is that there was no mention of the Golden Visa case. Why? Because the government is very much focused in this different priority of generalized migration. And they didn't have time to mention at all the Golden Visa case. This was, of course, in my view, a major mistake, because it created an incredible skepticism and fear, and I already know for sure it blocked at least the Asian market entirely in the last few weeks to enter this program. And this meant, in my view, already a major loss for this program. And in the meantime, certain people are a bit stuck and uncertain. There is a group of, instead, more, I would say, educated or informed investors who are entering the program now. Why? Because the position of those ones applying before the new law gets enacted, this is the bottom line, this is the short version, which is much more nuanced. They are protected by Constitution. Now, we will get into it right now. A general principle of any democracy in Europe is the non-retroactivity of law, which means there can't be a king or a supreme authority changing the law and making this change applicable to previously existing cases. Otherwise, the law wouldn't be really a general and abstract norm. It would be a specific decree, like equivalent of an old school king-issued decree towards specific people. This principle is embedded in almost, or I would say, all the constitutions in Europe, and of course it's one of the key pillars of the same existence, that is the foundation, of the same existence of the European Union. Now, what is the challenge here in this case for eventually Golden Visa investors? There are nuances regarding what is the act that qualifies in order to determine the establishment of a vested right for a specific person. Now, all these nuances I'm not going to give you now, but what matters is that personally I always loved this topic. I did my PhD in public law, and I'm a qualified lawyer, although I didn't practice. I built companies in my career, but I had the pleasure to write an in-depth legal assessment on this topic, and then we contributed as citizenship to the legal opinion issued by Professor Miranda, the so-called father of the Portuguese constitution. And I was quite glad to see that the analysis of Professor Miranda was quite along my own takes. The long story short is that there is always, first and foremost, when it comes to tax and law, and especially constitutional matters, you can be 99.9% sure of what you say, but absolute mathematical certainty are not belonging of, it's not anymore law or human things, it's life. Why? Because there is always the chance that maybe the initial law will be unclear, maybe there will be FUD, there will be need for the President of the Republic to send back the law because of, allegedly unconstitutionality, or maybe there will be need for the exercise of other remedies. So I can't tell you how the things exactly will evolve from a chronological standpoint, but from a teleological standpoint, there is no way that any law that would eventually change the impact negatively on pre-existing vested rights of people who applied to the program to be deteriorated. This is the bottom line that I wanted to share with you, and we already ran a webinar with Filippo Eusebio. We will be able to do eventually more educational analysis on this point. So what it really matters is that ask your advisor, ask your lawyer, although there will be unclarity, although there will be for sure a risk in terms of unclarity on year 1, 2, if you are convinced already, it's better to lock in a better position now rather than to wait. If you are unconvinced or you are entirely new on this topic, in my view, it's already too late, because the window of opportunity is very narrow, so only if someone is really convinced that can catch it now, and of course needs to ask their advisor to double check and see if it makes sense for your position. I can't tell you generally, but if it does, be warned, be advised, this is the very last moment of opportunity. Who are we? So I'm the founder of Citizenship, and we created this model starting with Portugal, but soon expanding all over the world, of creating companies active in the Bitcoin economy in different ways and getting exposure to Bitcoin. And in the case of Portugal, our fund invests in one Bitcoin ecosystem company, giving you exposure to Bitcoin, at the same time supporting the emergence of the Bitcoin economy and granting you a pathway to the Portuguese residency and citizenship. We are very proud in, I would say, spearheading the Bitcoin movement in Europe, the Bitcoin technology movement, and supporting it in various ways with a different system of companies active in this industry. If you're interested for this path, we would love to hear from you. Please write us. You can just check it out our website on british.com. Our first fund is almost full. We will have our team getting in touch with you within 24 hours. You can also DM me on X at Diale Palombo in any moment. You will find also in the description of this video all the different links I'm mentioning, so please be my guest, contact us for any question. Now, jumping back in, if you were probably interested in this program, or if you are considering it now that I'm explaining to you a bit the kind of opportunities and of course timelines, I would like to give you my take about not only the realistic costs and timeline of this program, but also the red flags to look into any potential investment opportunity. Besides us, maybe you are not Bitcoin aligned, you want to look into other options, do it. And I'm happy for you. I'm trying to share with you my own experience as a product builder from the inside, actually, from the inner side, I would say, of product development. Once again, 200K is the investment required. On top of it, ballpark, consider 33,000 euro for a total cost across legal and governmental fees. This is almost an average practice. Our fund is 1.5% management fee per annum. It's one of the lowest of the market, if not the lowest in reality, because we don't have hidden costs. Please double check always, because other realities, they charge you at a different level. So please always try to look into the ultimate numbers, not just the formal ones. Now, the realistic timeline, I already touched this topic, but I want to emphasize it once again. Once you apply for your investment, you, from that moment, with the current backlog existing in this country, you should be able to receive in 18 months the Golden Visa. In the past, especially for investors who invested in 2021, 2022, there has been a serious backlog. So although I believe our estimate is quite conservative, for 18 months, I can't guarantee this to you, okay? So if you are looking for a visa, if your primary interest is, oh, I want a visa, and then perhaps eventually want to get a sort of pathway to citizenship, my strong advice and recommendation is double check with your advisor, because there may be better pathways. There could be a delay, but if your primary interest is citizenship, this pathway for Portugal is unbeatable. You can't compare with anything existing today, and in my view, it's very rare that there will be something comparable in the near future. So, once again, Golden Visa, right now, our estimate is 18 months. In our view, it's very conservative, but please keep in mind some delays may happen. Of course, if, as the government has hinted, and again, we can't guarantee this at all, there is a fair degree of chances that there will be the implementation of a better platform eventually only for Golden Visa, and who knows, maybe some tax advantages. So, this is a bit the ballpark cost. Of course, if you want to add family members, there are going to be additional costs. They are not going to be in the same proportion. So if 33K more or less on top of the 500 is the effective cost over 8 years, not on year one, of course, of visa renewal, legal fees, and in all the different shapes, ballpark, as I remember, it should be about 13, 14K per additional family member. And in case you want to work with us, our team will provide you detailed expense checklist with all the timing actually and the roadmap of payments for the next 7-8 years. Another point, probably realistic and practical point to know, is typically the funds needs to be blocked for 5 years. The typical duration of all funds in this space is usually 8 years. We are no exception. Our fund actually remaining duration is 7 years at the present moment. We are now in August 2025. With all this clarified, let me tell you what we have learned on the market and what you should do for choosing the right fund for yourself. We have seen in the past few months, and with also prior funds in the past few years, a few recurring red flags for Golden Visa funds in Portugal, but this kind of concept could be applied for I would say every country. First and foremost for Portugal, please be very careful if a fund has any sort of hidden real estate exposure. Please ask 2 times to your lawyer to make this assessment. Why? Because the law is very clear, and the only exception that the law actually establishes in terms of areas where the companies the fund invests in can operate is real estate. So if your fund has a structure, a creative one, but in the end the exposure is on real estate, that could be something that could create in the future an issue for you. Secondly, and this is a more nuanced actually red flag, fund managers without sector expertise. We have seen this many times. For example, if a fund needs to invest in AI, the fund needs to be strong and needs to possess an effective track record in technology. You can't invest in technology without prior track record. So what happened in my view in some cases is that there are some excellent professionals, but they are generalists. If you invest in a specific category, that category very often demands the pre-existing of a specific set of skills. If those skills are not there, please be aware and don't please trust necessarily to someone. I have 30 years of experience in banking. Well, I can have 30 years of experience in hospitality, but this won't make me necessarily, probably the best tech investor, right? Unless hospitality tech investments is the same thing. I've never seen any great fund in tech eventually having an experience in real estate and vice versa. Of course, the opposite is also true. So follow the specialization of the managers. Undisclosed broker commissions. This is another point that in my view is very delicate and we have seen it many times. Ask in transparency to anyone you're talking to disclose the totality of costs at any level of the structure. I won't say this anymore, but I think transparency means substantial transparency, not formal transparency telling you, oh, yeah, the management fee is this amount, but then there is a kind of cost at a different level. We try to do this in a radical, transparent way. We give you a full overview on day one with proper documentation on essentially everything. Of course, if there is documentation which seems amateur or incomplete, well, you should be aware that in any case, if you want to run a fund in Europe, there are so many legislations and in place regulations and also guidelines that should be respected. So if you see a website without disclosures, without risk disclosures, without disclaimers, who knows? Sometimes if the marketing message is too convincing, eventually, probably, I'm not sure if compliance-wise it will be able to remain in place. So these are the red flags that I think more often can happen in this sector. And of course, you need to look, at least for Portuguese funds, to the registration belong the proper financial authority, which is the Portuguese SEC. Its name is CMBM. You need to, of course, get proper, again, access to the fees, and you need to get a good glimpse of the effective track record of the team behind, both at the fund advisory, but also at the fund management level. And in my view, it's always a good idea to invest, to bet actually on teams who have proper track record already also in the space itself. Now, let's go into the final points. What are the strategic timing considerations? In my view, for those ones who have been already thinking for a long time to this program, acting now, or at least assessing it now, it could grant you a much better position no matter what. So in any case, we don't know which is going to be the chronology of the upcoming events. There is no European program eventually left, and realistically there is going to be an improvement also in terms of backlog clearance, which means ultimately in terms of speed of obtaining a golden visa. In my view, building sovereign optionality before things change is always a great idea, and right now and reasonably in the near future, there won't be any program better than this. We have been studying and I've been active on this daily. We will launch also new products, for sure. But once again, I can't find any alternative that it can be compared to Portugal. Why? Because you don't need to move here. This means you keep your fiscal resiliency wherever you are. I honestly expect for this topic a period of uncertainty, a period of doubt, and this is going to, in my view, affect negatively primarily the program itself, unfortunately. We can expand this. I've seen this happening also with other programs of Portugal. For example, the new NHR, there are some similarities. In my view, there has been a kind of loss of opportunity for the country as a whole. But for you as an investor, in my view, it makes a lot of sense to consider the program now. And in my view, after the so-called FUD or fear, uncertainty and doubt will be cleared, this is going to remain once again the most competitive program. My point, very transparently, is that if you can have the same program, maybe instead with 7 years of waiting, but with 5, I think it makes sense to eventually assess it earlier, and now it's a matter of a few weeks before the new laws gets enacted. If you want to explore this path for yourself and for your family, especially if you're interested in general in Bitcoin-aligned investments, in Bitcoin-aligned companies, well, we are the specialists and we are the category creators in this field, so we would love to hear from you. Besides it, my personal prediction, but again, this is something that nobody can guarantee is that the new program, they will probably introduce a transition period, let's see, and realistically there will be some improvements also maybe on the taxation side for Golden Visa investors only. Perhaps there will be an increase of years from 5 to 7, but if the current remaining framework remains as is, which I personally believe, I expect the new program potentially to work this way. After 5 years, you get the permanent residency. The permanent residency under Golden Visa in Portugal is a special permanent residency because the general permanent residency in Portugal requires you to spend the majority of the months of the solar year in the country. The Golden Visa permanent residency is subject to exception, so there is no requirement in terms of physical staying. So if that was the case, to be honest, the initial conversations we had with many operators and investors tend to agree on the fact that even if the years will increase potentially to 10, well, it's not going to be a major change because you still get the PR, the special PR on year 5th, and then you need to wait other few years, which is going to be a wait, not requiring you to keep the investment in the country. But all of this, as always, it's something that we will just actually need to live, wait and see what happens. In the meantime, thanks again for being with me on this channel. If you want to have me discussing, analyzing other topics, please let me know in the comment section. I will try to be more active on the videos and I do hope that this breakdown analysis is helpful for you. Once again, for any contact of mine, check the description, and of course the best way to contact me is always on X via my DM inbox. Thank you so much.